Yet.
All right, you're all live, Paul. You're live, Carl.
Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear us okay. Just give us a message in the chat box on the right if you can hear and see us, just to let us know that we're properly live. But hello and welcome to everyone to the webinar with Errol Abramson. If this is your first time watching us live, this is all about the Entrepreneurial Development Institute. It's a hugely exciting project that Errol has started. And I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Carl, and I've been had the pleasure of working with Errol since basically the beginning of this this program. So just over a year ago, I was a total beginner, total newbie in business. I knew I wanted to be independent and be an entrepreneur, but I had no clue what I was doing. I had loads of ideas, but no way of making any sense of them. I was just a wreck. I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had the pleasure of meeting Errol in October last year. We had a brief conversation with each other, and we kind of kept in touch from there. And he helped me to start seeing my vision for the first time of what I wanted to do. And sure enough, I kept working with Errol, and he started this fantastic thing called the EDI. And as a result, as it stands, I've started my own digital marketing agency. I've got clients coming left and right. I've never had so much focus in my entire life. Like every single day I'll wake up and I know what I'm doing, and I know the big goal, the big picture that I want to get to. And I know that I've got the tools to get me there, all because I got in touch with Errol and joined the EDI, and it's just been absolutely magical ever since. So I'm going to stop wasting everyone's time. I want to introduce Errol formally and get things underway. So everybody say hello to Errol in the chat box, and hello, Errol, to yourself.
Oh, thank you very much, Carl. Thank you for that warm introduction. And hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's chat. We're going to interview Allegra Hart in a minute and talk about her. And I just want to share a little bit about EDI. What we wanted to do is, when we looked at the way things are in the world today, we started looking at what is there that we can do to make a difference. And the thing that really makes a difference is when people can become independent. And we believe that entrepreneurialism is one of the answers to the problem the world has today. And if we can create more independence, independence takes stress off of government, entrepreneurs create economy, and also you can take charge of your own life and self-control. If you've ever had a dream or a desire to be independent, what we stand for in the Entrepreneurial Development Institute is that independence. What we've done is we've created a group of 100 people. The group of 100 people, we're at about half now. And we're basically on referral basis. If you're not a member, it's very easy to become a member. You just chat with Ty and secure a spot. But the 100 founders are helping us learn what entrepreneurialism is to different categories of people. And we are developing 3 syllabuses, which we are right now have developed the 3 areas of entrepreneurialism, which I'm going to talk about just before I talk to Allegra. It's very interesting because people have talked and looked at entrepreneurialism as those are billionaires and millionaires, and if you're not of that status, you're not an entrepreneur, and it couldn't be further from the truth. An entrepreneur is a person that has developed independence. They are able to create a living independently of a paycheck. And entrepreneurialism is where you become independent. And there are 3 stages we found of entrepreneurialism. The first stage is transition, where you actually decide that you want to be an entrepreneur and what it takes and what it needs and what your desires are, and start creating goals towards creating that. And in that transition stage, there's several things that need to be done. And when you become independent and that independence starts lasting for a while, then you start looking at the second phase of entrepreneurialism, which is lifestyle, which is where our guest is at right now, is developing lifestyle. And then you decide what lifestyle you want to live in your life. And you set goals towards that, and you create your entrepreneurial business to be able to secure you the lifestyle that you want. And the third level of entrepreneurialism is scaling, where you decide you want to really scale your business and you want to go after the big banana. And these levels of entrepreneurialism are levels that you decide you want to be at. And you decide and start taking charge of where your life is going to go. And to me, that is the only thing that is going to transition our world from the situation that we're in today, where governments are near broke. You know, they say, teach you to fish and you eat for a day. You eat for a lifetime. Give you fish and you eat for a day. Teach you to fish and you eat for a lifetime. And what we're doing here is we're teaching to fish. And one of our new fisher people, since I met her in, it goes all the way back to October of last year in London, I got a chance to meet Dr. Hart. And I'd like to just briefly tell you that very interesting. I've been in the world of the vitamin industry for almost 40 years, and I've crossed paths with naturopaths in all those 40 years. And in those 40 years, I found naturopaths to be some of the best doctors and physicians to be able to take care of us and be able to get down to the real cause of illness instead of treating symptoms. And Dr. Hart is a naturopath, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Hart to you and have her share her story with you, where she comes from, what she's been involved in, and where she's going today. Dr. Hart, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you, Errol. Thank you so much. This is such an honor to be here and to, you know, we are coming up on a year that we've been working together, and that is just beautiful. And it's amazing to look back at this whole process and the momentum in the last year. So, you know, to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a naturopathic physician. I am licensed in the United States, and my goal is to help people create and structure healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And, you know, I love this echo with the entrepreneurial world, where we're really making sure that this is a sustainable shift. This is a goal to make everything be more congruent and mutually supportive. So when we're looking to build health, it's the same as building a business. And, you know, you have to have a healthy life in order to keep up with running your own business. Otherwise, it just kind of takes you. And so that whole layers of self-care is definitely a huge part of that. And I work mainly with women, helping them create an ideal diet so they've got the fuel to be able to run their businesses properly, to interact in their relationships at a fulfilling level, and to make the best possible choices that they can. So the healthier we are, the healthier world we're going to create and we're going to allow. And so when we really build that deep level of health within ourselves, it has no choice but to radiate out to our family and our friends and our business and our communities. And so it's really creating that change that we want to see around us, but starting that within, and that relates to our health as well as our businesses as well. So it's been that journey of allowing those connections to reach out further than just my office. And that's where Errol has been a tremendous support for me.
Well, Dr. Hart, the interesting thing is you realized and recognized that just in running your practice, you would just be working dollars for hours.
Right.
And as many hours as you worked, you would charge dollars for that. And you can make a good living doing that, and you can achieve with your patients what you want to achieve. And I must say that I have been a patient of yours and am a patient of yours, and I really appreciate the care and the diligence that you use in caring for your patients. But you wanted to reach out beyond that, and that's where your entrepreneurial spirit came.
Yeah.
And you were looking to generate and create passive income. So the first thing that you did is you created a course.
Yes.
Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as you were saying, the people who were working with me were those who could walk into my office, and I wanted to provide more opportunity to work with people outside of my state, outside of my country, outside of, the places that were very accessible for me. And so I created an online course that walks you through the core things that we all need to know about our health, whether that's looking at optimizing our food intake and how do we do that without making our whole world focus on food? How do we help our lymphatic system so we can detox appropriately and let go of things that no longer serve us? How do we manage the amount of stress that is epidemic around us? And many people have the reaction of shutting down when they feel overwhelmed. And so we all need more tools to manage that so that we can create those healthier lives, have healthier relationships, and know how to really listen to what's going on in our body so that we can make the best possible choices. And the online course is a 3-month weekly lesson to help you learn that stuff at home. So it extends beyond my office, which is why I was so excited about sharing that.
And that wasn't the only thing you did. You also have a getaway, or what do you call it, a retreat that you've done.
Yeah.
These are all, one of the things we talked about when we started talking about you and entrepreneurialism is creativity. And, a lot of people say, when I talk to you about, time, the number one tool of an entrepreneur we talked about is time and the utilization of your time, correct?
Yes.
And you have learned to get everything you can out of an hour now, haven't you?
Yes.
And the interesting thing is, we have your schedule, your calendar. We actually created a program for you so that you have your hours that you do in the clinic, and then you have your time that you set aside for. And remember, we talked about, this is very interesting because a lot of us here, when I talked about the 3 tools of entrepreneurialism, number 1 is time. Your number 1 asset is time. And I don't know of anybody in our group that doesn't agree with that. You get better use out of your time. You can double and triple the results that you get. Am I right, Allegra?
Definitely. Yes.
That's the number 1. The number 2 was something that you had an issue with and had to actually develop. And that is, nothing begins until something is sold. Right. And the ability to sell. And I remember you said, well, wait a minute, I'm a doctor. I'm not a salesperson. But you understood now is that promoting yourself is the most important asset that there is. And it is a tool that can be learned, can it not?
Absolutely can be learned.
And once you learn it, then you can develop staff to handle that for you, which is the next step for you, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
So you then, the third tool is creativity. And that's where we started talking about getting creative. And I would bring to you these different ideas and say, you know, take a look at this. Well, I don't really want to do that. I said, no, don't look at that. Look at the creativity behind it and how it could fit into your business. And this was talking about mirroring. And how important was mirroring to you, where you took a look at the way other people were running their businesses, and what did you get out of that?
Yeah, that was very helpful, especially when I learned to step back and look at it in a very objective way, where I was looking at really the structure of it rather than the content. I wanted to see what other people were doing, and it helped me look at that in a different way so that I could pull the things out that I thought, oh yes, that has to be in place in order for people to understand how important health is. And so I've got to plug that into my communications, but also the stuff that limited my ability to understand the content that was there as well. So I was able to see how things flowed at a better level and more consistent level as I was looking at the way different companies and different groups were doing it. And that allowed me to create a little bit more of what I was doing, but also not reinvent the wheel from scratch.
And the other thing was, I mean, it took a little bit of time, and you had to step out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And maybe talk a little bit about that. If you want to be successful, you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone from time to time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because otherwise there's no way to grow. Because if we're not looking at what's going on in the boundaries, in the periphery of what we're already doing, then we're missing those opportunities for the next steps. And that doesn't mean that it's not any less scary or overwhelming just because you are being more objective about how that's going to help you grow, not only mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, but also grow your business, grow your ability to communicate and connect. But when we look at it as this is a way to step closer to our wildest dreams, step closer to the true self that has been waiting to be fully expressed, then we can let some of that fear just be what it is, fear. And we still step forward, even though it's not what we are comfortable with, not what we know, but we know that these next steps are opening more and more windows, more and more doors, more and more avenues to helping us really create a joyful life that is sustainable. And, you know, again, echoing that beautiful marriage between entrepreneurialism and naturopathic medicine, it's about that holistic sustainability. And we have to really step outside of our comfort zone in order to maintain that. And it's a practice of courage.
You know, it's very interesting to have watched you and to watch your growth, because I remember the first, I guess, audio that you did, and you were so squeamish, and now look at the confidence that you have, because you've really given it a shot. And it took some courage, it took some practice.
Yep.
And you know, now you go and you talk to these businesses, you talk to health food stores, you talk to large health food retailers, and you actually you've actually become one of your best promoters, haven't you?
I have become much more able to share it, and you really helped me reframe how I'm approaching sharing information. Before it was sales, and it was something that felt weird, but now I see it as just a way to communicate what I have to offer. And if it resonates with someone, fabulous. And it might not be who I expect it to resonate with. It might be their sister or their aunt or somebody who's standing behind them and overhears us. It's just knowing that my my goal to help create a happier, healthier, but more well-balanced world, it has to have that courage in there to be able to step out and to share and to know that not everybody is going to feel that it's a right fit for them, and that's great. But every time that I'm able to communicate and connect with them, I'm planting that seed of an option for them to start looking at different ways to be healthier.
And, you know, that's in your profession. And as far as being an entrepreneur and building your business, you finally realize that it's not nasty to be rewarded for it.
Exactly.
It's not bad to be wealthy.
Right.
And also to have your goals and your dreams. And you went to school, you studied. A lot of people don't know that your training is the same training as a medical doctor, only deeper.
Yeah.
Because you're not involved in diagnosing and prescribing for symptoms.
Right.
Your job is to find the causes and to relieve the causes. And if you relieve the cause, the symptoms go away by themselves.
Exactly.
And it's an extensive thing. And then you build your practice, and the results that you get for patients are much different than allopathic medicine.
Right.
And a lot of the things that you use are 6,000 years old, where allopathic medicine, we don't really understand it, is not even 100 years old.
Right.
And the medicine that you practice, some of the medicine you practice, herbology, homeopathy, those are medicines that have been around for years, centuries. And this is what you've studied and practiced. And then what you decided you wanted to do was you wanted to build a lifestyle for yourself as well.
Right.
Now, entrepreneurs, everybody that's out there, if you don't have goals and dreams, then what are you doing? Are you lethargic? Do you feel that the world owes you a living? Or are you not willing to step up to the plate and say, this is what I want, and I'm willing to go get it? And there's education out there to be gotten, is there not?
Yes,
Allegra?
Definitely.
You know, and also it's not easy to find a positive environment. And would you tell people the power of the networking when you've been down and you use the network here to help you? Would you explain that?
Absolutely. That's been a tremendous asset. I mean, the support that is available through this group is extensive, and I'm sure that it's far more extensive than my little knowledge is aware of, but there are so many different ways to get feedback and to get options to understand where resources might be available or what words you need to be looking at, that open whole new layers of connections and options for growth through business and beyond. And it's been really incredibly helpful. And every time I feel stuck, I'll throw a question out there and I always get a response, and it's always helpful.
Now, the other thing too is you also launched your own vitamin line.
Yes.
And you've started with some specific vitamins, and I was very heavily recommended that, and
yes.
I feel that if you're going to promote your own products, and I still want you to put your picture. Remember, I gave you yes. one of the ladies that was very successful.
Yes.
And I said, mirror this lady. And you went and got her information and you followed some of the things. But, share what a path that was for you and what education you got, because you became a businesswoman. You were buying product. You had to find somebody to package it. You had to create a label. You had to get marketing information for the label. I mean, this has really been a tremendous journey for you, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been one heck of a learning curve, let me tell you. And those little nuances, those little steps that I never knew even existed, that's where I think the network was so important, because they would say, hey, what about this? And then I'd realize that was actually really pivotal and one of the reasons why I was stuck with this next step, because I didn't even know that one existed.
But the one thing that we talked about also, we talked about profit centers.
Yes.
And for those of you who are listening, cash flow is probably the most important thing that you can have when you're in business. As a matter of fact, I was probably sticking that in your face every day.
Yes.
Because do you remember back in the beginning what I made you do?
Yes. Every single day.
Share that with people.
So every single day I had to send him my income. And so every single day I had to look at that, pull that information together, look at what was spent and what the profit was, and send that information to him. And some of the days were very, very sad. And the repetition of that frustration was really helpful to instill that I didn't have a diverse income. If I was not in the office, there was no income, period. And so it really lit that fire under me to make more options. And that's where Dr. Allegra's Apothecary really was able to find the light, and the supplements there that I have used for years and love. They're now more broadly available rather than just available to those who are in my office. But
and we're going to talk about that in a minute too, because that's another exciting thing that you've done. Also, you've written a book.
Yes.
Do you have it handy?
Yes.
If you have it handy, grab it and hold it up.
So that's it.
And it's Nourishing
Space Within Essentials of Self-Care. And it's available on Amazon.com.
And again, that's another profit center, but also it gave you a chance to express yourself, didn't it?
Yeah. I told you that this was my first step into cultivating a healthier life for myself, was to look at my skincare products. And I always had this fantasy in the back of my head about having an apothecary and formulating the products that I carried there and really making super high quality products. And this gives me the platform to play in that way and help others. So it's been a beautiful way to help ignite that, and I'm really grateful.
But share with people also your reluctance and the downside things that you've had, because what I've found is in building my career there was a lot of things that I had to overcome, and many of them could have taken you out of the game right away, or sent you back to just doing your dollars. Your dollars for hours and forgetting about it, because sometimes you run into some hard times and you run into areas that you don't know what to do.
Right.
And a lot of times that was where we talked about mentorship, where we did 1 month and I said, I think this is just too expensive for you. I don't think you can afford to do this. Why don't we try to do something different? And that was just in, caring for you, and holding on to it. But you've had down times. Why don't you share some of those with people?
I think part of this, really surrendering to continuing to invest in my education, and knowing that this takes time for the information to really become applicable. So obviously, I've got 5 years of my doctorate for my naturopathic degree, and my business education was, more than my other colleagues, but still not at all able to meet the needs of the ever-changing markets. And so it was often a practice of feast and famine for income. I would have the times where I would make what I needed to cover my bases, and I would be able to put some money into savings to invest further in growing in education and traveling to London to meet wonderful people like Errol. But there were also times when, I had to be really, really careful about what I spent. And so I'd find myself limiting my ability to grow because I hadn't set that framework to really create the income structure that I needed. And so there's definitely some really difficult times where you're just squeaking by, really. And the joy of spending time with my patients and my clients and helping them was the payoff. Everything else was just kind of breaking even. While there was some debt with that, it was more just, let's focus on the beautiful things that are happening here, and things will bloom further later. But right now, they're a little rough.
When you talked about, investing, education, I mean, the cost of you becoming a doctor was expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And the cost of being involved in the Entrepreneurial Development Institute, those insignificant amount of dollars it is, a couple of $100 a month.
Right.
But it's still an investment in education, is it not?
It totally is an investment in education.
And people don't realize that this is education.
Yeah.
And education sometimes costs money. And also you get education out of trying and having temporary defeat.
Totally. You have to fail.
And that's an investment. I don't call it failure. I call it temporary defeat.
Right on. That is a better way to frame it.
The only reason it's failure is when you quit.
That's true. And
when you quit, then it's failure.
Right.
But everything else is temporary defeat. There always is a way around it.
Right.
And, it's very interesting because I remember, just the basic stuff of business and creating additional cash flow for your company, where now you're looking at, you have shelves, maybe not filling up yet, but they will, of multiple profit centers.
Right.
Now, when you start hitting on these profit centers, if any one of them hits, it's a gigantic win for you, is it not?
A tremendous, tremendous win. Yeah.
And this is all about going after your personal goals too.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have goals and desires and a lifestyle that you want you and your husband to live.
Mm-hmm.
And also you have things that you want to do. In addition, you want to be a teacher, and you want to teach and guide, and you want to spend more time with patients and long-term care of these patients to be able to really establish good health for people. And you're talking about, I know, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year programs that you can take care of people. And you're starting to see it is attainable now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, it appears to me, and not appears to me, I know it. You've expanded from, oh, gee, I'm really not sure. I'm a doctor. I'm really not sure I should be in business, to, oh my God, I should have 5 or 6 businesses, and they should all be creating this passive income for me so I can be a better doctor.
Right.
And that led you to, we talked about, I remember there was a product that I was using. And I said, this company, this doctor is doing tremendous marketing.
Right.
And still is. I mean, huge marketing. He's probably spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month now.
Easily.
But he's bringing in millions. And you've just launched in that area, but you studied for a while, did you not?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely a lot of purchasing products like from that person that you just talked about, so that I could see what the back end of the funnel looked like. What emails do they send? When do they send them? What do they write in there? And once you click buy, what happens after that? Is there a parade of 10 upsells, or is it?
I know that particular person. It's hard to get out of their sight, isn't it?
It kept going, and checking in with how did I feel as a customer in that experience? Did it make me feel like, oh, there's more options, or did I start to feel a little withdrawn? And so it was being really mindful of that process. And as a objective customer with a business that has a similar vein, it really helped me be able to look at that and pull out parts of it that were highly effective and let the rest go.
In other words, for all of us listening, whatever idea or concept we have, we want to put a uniqueness to it.
Right.
Because I've talked to you about that. And it's like being in the hamburger business. McDonald's isn't the only place you can buy a hamburger.
Right. But
they're the ones you hear about the most. And they're probably not the best hamburger on the market either.
Right.
But the important thing is there always is somebody to mirror.
Right.
And if you're willing to learn, and especially with this internet, I talked to you about selling and closing a sale, and I said, let's just go on YouTube. And I remember, I think we got there was 1 million hits, and I've done that with a fellow says, well, I just don't know how to get leads. I'm a good salesperson, but I don't know. And I went on the YouTube and I said, referrals, finding referrals, and cold market. And I got 46,000 sites that would show this guy. And the real thing is you've got to want to get off your backside, your hiney.
Yeah. Research takes time.
And you took the risk. You took the risk. I mean, I imagine, knowing you, I imagine your teeth were chattering when you talked to somebody at Whole Foods. And now look at you're laughing at it.
It's practice.
See, this is something else, that some of these are skills. Just like Carl, he's learned skills now that you do 5 and you remember what I said? You would do 5 and then you would sit and we would reassess.
Mm-hmm.
And we would find a better way, a better strategy. And then we would move forward and we would find out how that result was. And then we would move forward until we continually learn to grow.
Right.
And now tell them about your new profit center and how close this is to a dream that you had that you thought a year ago was impossible.
Yeah, and that's Dr. Allegra's Apothecary. It's skincare products that I am so excited about, because I was finding I didn't know what products specifically to recommend my patients go out and get, because they were all compromising in some way in their level of cleanliness or their ability to be effective. And so I got tired of just spinning my wheels with that. And so I decided to formulate my own cleansing oil and serums to help people heal from the outside in while we were working on healing from the inside out. And it felt like when I was able to surrender the complete different approach that I was taking, it felt like they were then allowed to naturally dovetail themselves rather than be two standalone entities. And I would like that. And then it's the whole practice again of let's go in and do a ton of research. Let's look at what other people are doing. What are they saying? What do they have in their products? What do their customers say about it? And what's the process like for experiencing those? And how clean can we get these products so that we can really keep layering the bits of health that we are adding into our routines and really create a self-care ritual out of it, rather than it just being, yeah, this is what I use on my skin. And
well,
so
let's talk about Allegra, the businesswoman now.
okay.
And where are your bottles? I can't believe you haven't pulled them out and showed us yet.
My bottles are getting printed as we speak. And
do you have a sample, something that you can just point up and show us?
I think I do. Hang on a sec.
You know, I've got to tell you, I'm very proud of this woman. She's done this all on her own with just a little bit of help.
That is the cleansing oil. It's got a couple of changes to it that are going to be printed, and these should be showing up soon. This is a dark violet glass that protects the product even further. And so that's going to be the branding there. And I got to say, you know, for making a step and making a choice and really stepping further than I was imagining, to have this bottle in my hand was such a liberating experience. I felt like horizons that I didn't know were there had just expanded beyond my wildest dreams. And while I still don't know what's out there on this journey, this felt like it opened a whole new layer for me. So it was very special for me.
Yeah, you know, and I also remember you even used the site because you couldn't find a bottle, right. And you asked the site. You said, anybody know where I can get bottles?
Yeah. Yep. And encapsulations, you know, those options for putting, you know, that was a word that I didn't even know was what I needed to search. And I got that through the support of this group and from you, Errol, to look, okay, let's look at encapsulation. What about private label formulas? What about having someone else make it? And so these layers of options now became something that were a tangible thing for me to explore rather than something that was just completely in a different language and out of my realm.
And now you've also learned about affiliate marketing, and you've got some people that might join you in your journey and help you with the online. And again, it was asking for help.
Right. We cannot do this alone. And I cannot. I think it's funny that I'm saying that because I've been a solopreneur for like ever. But when I really step out and ask for help, and this community has been a way for me to put that in play, it's helped everything move so much more smoothly.
You know, I was talking about because, you know, people come and go. And I think the real reason that they come and go are people don't understand really what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, they're not sold on their own goals. And, you know, when I find somebody says, gee, I just can't afford it. What can you afford? Can you afford not to?
Right.
You know, invest in yourself. I think that's the biggest investment that you can make, is it not?
Absolutely.
What would you share with if you were going to share one really valuable message with our group today? What would you say?
Wow. Well, for me, it's all about what do you allow in your life. So really the boundaries of setting clear lines about what you want in your life and allowing that in your life, cultivating that in your life, working for the skills that can help bring that closer to you. But that in the same turn has letting go of the things that are no longer serving you, those negative thought processes that are telling you that this is something that you can never do, or those people in your life that beat you down and tell you that this is something that you can't do. Just know that that's them talking through their own insecurities, and it really has nothing to do with you. But just to get clear on what you're going to allow and what you need to kick out of your life, that's going to liberate room and open up more options.
Was there a time that you could just feel yourself switch to where you finally just went, I'm going, boom?
Well, there have been different moments of that. And, I think, like, if I look back on my choice to become a physician, when I look at when I got my bachelor's, and granted, my bachelor's degree is in Japanese language and literature, so it's a totally different approach to getting into medical school. But at that point, I realized that I could do whatever I wanted, and everybody had their opinion about what I should be doing. But ultimately, it's what I wanted to do. And when I told people I wanted to be a doctor, they said, "Oh, that's really, really hard, right? That's going to be a lot of school, right? Are you sure you want to do that?" And I'm like, telling me something's going to be hard is not a reason to not do something. It just means that, yeah, I'm in, and it helps solidify my resolve to do this. And I look back at that point, that freeing moment, and whenever I feel trapped or like I've become overwhelmed, I think about that moment and all of the options that are open. And I remind myself that those options and more are open if I just allow myself to breathe into this moment and understand this expansive beauty that is just right here waiting.
You talk about overwhelm, and I've run into that a lot in my consulting, especially to this group. You and I have had discussions about that.
Yep.
And I have always told you to go back and journal, and if you're overwhelmed, write it out.
Yes.
Now, has that worked for you?
That's been tremendously helpful. Yeah. Because when it gets it out of my head where it's bouncing around and onto paper where I can see it, and the writing process is a way to actually process the information. So it makes it so pivotal to helping you work through it, but also then get you clear on what actually needs to be done to get you out of that. And you can let the other stuff that you're worrying about go.
It's very interesting because I remember telling you that, and that's exactly what I said to you. So it's nice to see that it's duplicatable.
Yeah.
And it can be done. And the interesting thing, Allegra, is your journey really is just beginning.
Yes. I'm a noob.
Your journey is just beginning, and you've moved from we talked about transition state, and a lot of the transition state, the real qualifier for the move out of the transition state is where you're independent. You are getting enough income now that you don't need outside help.
Right.
You don't need a job. You don't need a paycheck. Mm-hmm. You're creating enough yourself. And that's why I call transition, because I believe that people need to do what they have to do to be able to do what they want to do. And just because you're in a job doesn't mean that you can't transition.
Right.
Or you'll take pay cuts to transition, because you might. But the thing is, and you might also have to work harder. You've put in more hours of research than you thought you would have to do.
Oh, yeah.
And also, it seems like the harder you work, the more lucky you got. All of a sudden somebody contacted you and said, don't you have a bigger program that I can buy?
Right.
Do you remember that happening to you? Somebody said, I don't just want this, I want, can you take care of me for a year? Do you remember what happened there? Something happened.
Well, it was into the 3-month program, and they wanted it to be more extensive.
All they wanted to do is they wanted to give you more money.
Right.
And I remember you saying that, to where you were so worried if anybody was going to buy one. And then you said, now I've got, these people giving me more money than, am I not charging enough? But it's very interesting with the transition. And now you'll be launching your apothecary line when?
Well, once the bottles arrive, then I will have a set date. Again, since this is my first time through this creation part, I'm not entirely sure when these are going to show up. Anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks.
And you know, the interesting thing is this is your first crack at it.
Yes.
You know, a year from now or 2 years from now, it could have a different look.
Right.
You know, right now, but hold it up again. You know, I mean, that's got your name on it.
I know. I learned that from you.
And isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
I mean, if for all our friends out here, it's what's possible.
Right.
And what I've learned is that whatever your goals and desires are, whatever the mind, as in the book Think and Grow Rich, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.
Right.
And you certainly are, Carl as well. You both certainly are products of that. Whatever you conceive and believe, you can achieve. And this is the same for all of us.
Right.
Now, our plan, and I know you're in tune with this, my goal is there's no magic in small dreams. And just like you're talking about, there's no magic in small dreams with your apothecary line now. I mean, you can see yourself being as big as Helena Rubinstein now. And who knows what will come of it. But the world is your oyster.
Right.
And there's no magic in small dreams. My dream for our group, EDI, is to expand it to 100 million entrepreneurs. And those 100 million entrepreneurs are going to figure out a way to finance the free teaching of entrepreneurialism to children. And I have a game plan for it, and also to create a business opportunity in selling and teaching the syllabuses, because there are different fundamentals and different practices that will help you become more successful more quickly.
Yeah.
And save you time. And like I said to you, Allegra, you don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. You can look at other people's mistakes and learn from them, and you have.
Yeah.
And it saved you a lot of time and money. And money. The only way our group expands is by referral. And you refer people to Ty, and they can join and become part of our group. I do a consult once a month with each person in the group, and we only limit this to a group of 100. And you, 100, Allegra, are going to be our founders.
Yay.
And you're going to be able to share the message with the rest of the world based on, with you beautifully and with Carl beautifully, on what has happened to you and what will happen to you in the future.
Right.
And you're going to become tremendous coaches and tremendous guest lecturers for people and their goals and their dreams and their achievement by saying, I didn't think so, and now here I am.
Right.
And it's amazing what happens with just a little change in your life. And I encourage people, actually challenge you to make small changes in your life. We did an article, do you remember, Allegra, in the group we talked about your small wins.
Yes.
And I told you to post your small wins because you were always waiting for a giant one.
Yeah.
And your small wins were just as encouraging, were they not?
Definitely.
And when you post with other people, does that not help yourself?
Yeah, it helps recalibrate me, which I find very invigorating.
Recalibrate me, which is very invigorating. Well said. You know, remember, I'm not a college graduate, so I don't have that kind of vocabulary. So I appreciate that very much. Any final words you'd like to invite people to join us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for all of those who are watching, if you ever have the opportunity to work with Errol or work with this group, please do. You will not regret it. When we invest in ourselves, we invest in our quality of life. And that's a really important asset to give ourselves. And so if you are wanting to start a business or already have one and want to make sure that you are on the right track, definitely connect with Errol, connect with Ty, connect with the EDI group, because it is going to be a huge asset for you. And I look forward to all the adventures that will be coming in this next year as well.
Allegra, thank you very much for being here. I really compliment you on your success. You know how proud I am of you.
Thank you, Errol.
You know, your successes are my reward, and I feel very rewarded today.
Yay.
Thank you for
Awesome.
being here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be up again next month with another guest. We have some tremendous success stories, and I want to share each and every one of them with you. Thank you very much for being with us. God bless.